Hey, gifted 2E parents, thank you very much. If you've attended one of our SANG groups, if you're finding us that way. If you have not attended one of our SANG groups, we're starting again on March 12th. So just wanted to let you know you can sign up there for a 6-week session, 90 minutes each session, led by my co-facilitator and me, where we are providing an opportunity for parents to share resources and build skills. And one of the things that I am committing myself to doing is sharing with you this newsletter. It's really more of a journal, Teaching for High Potential. It's put out by the NAGC. If you're not already a member, I would encourage you to consider it. But what I thought I would try to do is digest this quickly and then share a few things with you briefly from here that you can put into play right away, whether you're a teacher or a parent. The first two articles are mainly aimed at teachers, but parents, it's a really good way for you to learn the language of teaching and differentiation so that you can speak effectively with teachers, and if you're a homeschooling parent, so that you can build your teaching capacity. So in this article by Nancy Herzog, I love her work, she talks about the project approach and how to build on student experiences to expand learning and access to differentiated instruction. So the 3 parts of this project approach is phase 1, assessing what they already know, and use language and experiences that are familiar to the students. Start with their immediate environment, their home and their neighborhood. Phase 2 is the inquiry phase, where they're working on acquiring new information and devising questions in their own language, in their own words, to extend upon what they already know. And then phase 3 is communicating that back out. The example that she uses is measurement. So in a measurement section, starting with the environment, assessing what they already know, what's going on in their own neighborhood, in their own homes, how are people already measuring, find out what students are already noticing. So I thought that was pretty cool. 3 phases. And then the second one is also for teachers. It is a really interesting article in a 4-part series on whether or not ChatGPT can differentiate learning for gifted students. And in this particular article, especially focused on math, the author was not very impressed with ChatGPT's ability to differentiate. I thought that was pretty interesting. I love people who go into evaluating the role and potential of AI with an open mind and actually test it and probe to see what's possible, and then find that it's wanting and think about why it's wanting. Like, why could it not differentiate? Well, in this case, ChatGPT was asked to come up with geometry problems for grades 3 to 12, and including gifted students. And it really didn't ask any qualifying questions. It did not do that first phase of the 3-part phase I just described, which is to assess what students already know. So it didn't include that. It didn't ask any questions there. It didn't ask for more information. Now, one of our challenges as human beings using AI is to make sure that our prompts are good. So I don't know what the prompts were exactly. But okay, so actually the question is here: are you familiar with the essential components involved in differentiating a math lesson? So ChatGPT was familiar with all of the essential components. It came back with 6 different things and 2 bullets under each, but wasn't able to actually execute. So I think that's really interesting. Theoretical understanding did not translate into practical, effective differentiation, to quote this article. The next one is for teachers as well, how teachers can impact student well-being. And this came up in our group, and that is to pay attention to adults. We adults, especially for parents of gifted 2E students, we are probably gifted 2E in some way ourselves and may not have been identified as such when we were young. And right now, many students are struggling with anxiety and depression. 40% of adolescent-age students experience feelings of sadness and hopelessness. If you have done any reading at all yet on the topic of gifted education or the experience of being gifted, you might have run across Living with Intensity by Daniels and Piakowski. It's very good. I recommend you read that because one of the biggest challenges for the gifted, intense, intelligent, sensitive human being is emotional regulation, idealism, existential concerns. And I think that as educators and as parents, we need to be mindful that that's actually a normal part of the experience for a gifted person. I think, yes, it's important to acknowledge that There are times for professional support for anxiety and depression. But if we are raising our kids with an awareness that this is part of the experience, and we're helping them develop the capacity to deal with these intense emotions through all the basics, through good rest, through exercise, through nutrition, because yes, the gut and the brain are connected through the microbiome, through understanding how to reset our nervous system, looking into polyvagal theory, vagal reset. I mean, there are so many different really interesting rabbit holes that you can go down that would be very productive and fruitful for you. That is way too much to cover right now. But just knowing that this is a natural part of the experience of being gifted and twice exceptional is having a very intense interconnectedness with the world and the world beyond our own homes. And in a way that's well beyond what you would expect maybe for the age of the child, giving them coping strategies. I think that's important. Let's see, struggle matters. I thought this was a beautiful article. Tamara Fisher-Alley from Polson School District in Montana. She talks about the essential and crucial nature of struggle in development. And one little tidbit that she threw in here, which I thought was great, was trees grown in Biosphere 2, it's a project in Arizona, ended up collapsing under their own weight. As it turns out, and I'm quoting her, without wind to stretch and stress them, they hadn't developed strong wood and deep enough roots. They had grown quickly, but without wind, they had grown up to be too weak to be able to fulfill their life's purpose of being a tree. Of course, butterfly is mentioned in here too, quite a long period of struggle if you've ever watched one come out of the chrysalis and then dry out the wings. Sea turtles as well have to crawl down and flop down the sand to get into the ocean. Well, that's important for them developing the muscular strength to deal with their first few ocean days. So this teacher talks about the importance of not relying on AI. It could be so tempting, especially for clever students, to look for easy ways out to get the job done and think about maybe cutting corners because they're clever. But what we do is we cede to that process of cutting the corners. We cede our ability to really develop skills and appreciation for our own creativity. We really short-circuit ourselves. Creating, I'm quoting her again, creating one's own ideas and doing one's own work changes and builds something in the person. And I think that's true. The purpose in drawing the picture or writing the assignment isn't for the picture or assignment to be done. It is for what happens, changes, and grows within the person doing those tasks. So she says the best tool available to our students is the one between their ears. If we don't build in our students a willingness to learn how to use it, then it will become like trees in the biosphere, falling from their own weaknesses because they sheltered themselves from stress and struggle by taking the easy way out. In the case of gifted learners, if we shelter them by not providing them the academic challenge and intellectual stimulation their brains are craving, then we're going to be shortchanging them. They're going to be losing out on self-confidence, skills, pride, vocabulary, neural connections, and being able to look oneself in the eye, figuratively speaking. So I thought that was a great article. It was a short one, page 11, but I thought it really, really mattered. And then what else did I want to share with you? There's a couple other good ones in here, but I think those are the main ones. There's one on patriotism without politics, and at the very end, there's a pivot teacher observation checklist, perception of instruction in virtual or online. I think this is important because one of the best things you can do as a parent to think about how well your student is being served by whatever educational environment they're in is to be able to go in and volunteer in the classroom and get a sense of what's happening in the classroom, because your eyes will be open to not only what your child is telling you, which is only one part of the story, but also the teacher's experience, the teacher's observations, which are equally important and valid. You're only getting part of the story. If you haven't ever been in the child's classroom to observe, figure out a way to go volunteer and do that. Even if you're sitting outside the classroom reading, which is what I had to do in kindergarten. We weren't allowed in the classroom, but you are able to take in a lot of information just from sitting outside or being able to walk in briefly. If you can't do that for some reason because you work full time or the teacher doesn't allow you to come in, then ask for someone else to go in. Ask for a counselor who understands gifted students. Ask for somebody else, anybody else, which is possibly even better in some cases, to go in, because then it's not you sitting in the classroom. Your child may behave differently if you're in there versus someone else. So I think in an ideal world, you'll go because your observations are important, but I would also couple that with someone else going, because then you get a couple data points over time and different observers and different perspectives. But when I went in to observe my young person in class, I actually did go look up a teacher observation sheet, and I brought it with me, and I sat in the back and I took notes because I wanted to be able to process and understand what it was that I was seeing, not through my parents' viewpoint only, but also through a professional educator's view. So page 18 and 19 has a teacher observation checklist. This one is by Brianna Wall, Jamie Castle, and Carrie Gilbo, I may be saying it wrong, from Johns Hopkins. It's called the Pivot Teacher Observation Checklist. So you might be able to look for that online. I hope this is really helpful. It was a lot longer than I anticipated, but it may be saving you an hour of reading or a subscription, so I hope it's helpful. March 12th is our next Supporting the Emotional Needs of the Gifted. It's open to up to 14 people. We do have spaces open. It starts March 12th at noon Eastern Standard Time, and total cost is $150 for all 6 of your sessions. And we are also moderating a Discord server so that once you join our group and you graduate from our group, you can then join the Discord server and enjoy the company and resources and insights of other parents who have also gone through our group. So really looking forward to seeing you in there. And again, I hope this was helpful. Reach out with questions.